Welcome to another episode of the Sex and Spanglish podcast. I'm your hostess, Ana Lopez, sexologist and sex coach, and I'm here to help you enjoy sex sin vergüenza. The way that I'm going to do that today is by talking about libido. Now, libido is just a fancy word for sex drive or even sexual desire, so whatever term you use is totally fine. I'm not here to police the words that you use, the terms that you use. I just need you to know that when I say libido in this episode, what I mean is sex drive or sexual desire. And if I happen to say sex drive or sexual desire, I mean libido. They're all one and the same. So before we get into it, I need you to know one thing. If you take nothing else away from this episode, which I highly doubt will be the case, but if you only take one thing from this episode today, I need you to know this. Libido is one of the easiest problems to solve for, okay? Libido is one of the easiest problems to solve for, contrary to popular belief. But before we can solve it, we need to understand why your libido is where it is in the first place. If your libido is low, if you have no libido, right? If you're like, I have negative libido, totally fine. We can solve that. It is easy. I don't know, if we think about libido as like a scale, right? So if it's like lower on the scale, no matter how low it is, we can solve for it. It doesn't get harder the lower your libido is. We can still solve it. But first, no matter where you land on this scale, you need to understand why your libido is where it is at in the first place. You are currently looking for the how to raise your libido, how to get your libido back. Right? And it's not working. Because to raise your libido, again, you need to know why it's low in the first place. If it's missing, you need to know why it went missing. It is very important for this specific problem to know why it is that way in the first place. So I want you to think about it in this way. So let's imagine that you have a scratchy throat, body aches, a cough, and you're like, okay, this ain't it. I gotta fix this. So you go to Walgreens and you buy some some Dayquil, some NyQuil, whatever, right? Some over-the-counter medicine instead of seeing the doctor. And maybe you get better for a little bit. Maybe you're like able to tame the cough a bit. Your body aches go away. But after a week, you stop taking the medicine and you're like, what the hell? My symptoms are slowly but surely coming back. So you start taking the medicine again. And this time, the symptoms don't go away. They're still there. So you go to the doctor and come to find out you have like an infection of some kind that you needed antibiotics for. So the doctor gives you antibiotics and lo and behold, the symptoms go away, right? Because the doctor was treating the actual problem. What you were doing with the Dayquil or with the NyQuil was just treating the symptoms, right? It was a Band-Aid solution. You weren't treating the actual problem. You were just treating the symptoms, right? Like how the infection presented itself. And that's what so many of you are doing with your libido, with your sex drive. You are like, well, I don't want to have sex, or I barely want to have sex. So I need, a supplement. I need to spice it up in the bedroom. I need a new partner, right? Whatever it is that you're trying to do, it might work in the interim, right? It might work for a little bit, but slowly but surely it's going to stop working because you're not actually solving for the actual problem. And as your sex coach, I'm going to solve the problem for good. But first, we need to understand what is actually going on. What is the actual problem here? Your low libido, your missing libido, is a symptom of a larger issue, and we're going to talk about that here today. So there are two types of libido. There is mental and physical, and there are scientific terms for these types of desire, but I like to keep this podcast in layman's terms when possible because it just makes it easier for you to remember, right? Like if I give you the scientific terms, which I can totally do, I'm not going to, but I could give you the scientific terms and use all of these larger words, if you will, or more formal words. Because you don't use them, you're not going to really remember them, right? You may be like, oh, yeah, I heard of that before, but it's going to be a lot harder for you to remember what they actually mean. And honestly, what you call it doesn't matter, right? We're not talking about body parts here. So, what you call like your libido doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. There are cases where it does matter. And when that is the case, I will let you know. But for what we're talking about here today, we can just refer to it as mental and physical desire. And as I go in describing what each of these are, you will see why. So there is, again, mental desire, mental libido. There is physical libido, physical desire, right? So desire, libido, same thing. So first is mental. Mental happens in your mind, as the word might suggest, right? These are thoughts, fantasies, memories. So thoughts can be things such as like, oh, I would like to have sex right now. Or I would like to do, I don't know, I'd like to suck my partner's dick. Whatever comes up, any thought about sex, right? Something that you would like to do, just like a passing thought about sex, that counts. If there are fantasies, right? So things, if you are thinking about something that you would like to do or something you would like your partner to do, or maybe a stranger, right? Maybe your celebrity crush or, whoever, you are thinking about what it would be like to kiss them or to have them massage you or whatever it is, right? It doesn't have to be actually about like penetration or like fully fledged sex. It can just be like thinking about being with them in a more intimate way. That can be a fantasy. And that is also mental desire. When we think about memories, these are things of past experiences, right? Presumably good, right? So these are things of like, oh yeah, I had sex one time and it was like fucking amazing, right? That is a memory that is a form of mental desire. So again, thoughts, fantasies, memories. Then we have physical desire. Physical desire are physical symptoms in your body. So essentially, horny, right? When you think of physical desire, I want you to think of being horny. So these are things such as you're wet, right? Or you're getting there. Your body is warming up, right? Your temperature is going up. You can feel tingling or throbbing. This typically happens in your vulva or in your vagina, right? But this can happen in other areas as well. Essentially, any symptoms that you would identify as being horny. They show up differently for everyone, but being wet, your body warming up, the tingling or throbbing, those are kind of the most common ones that we see. Okay, so that is physical, the difference between physical and mental desire. Keep those definitions in mind as I go through this episode. So women who struggle with libido fall into 3 categories. Keep in mind that there is some overlap here. So I don't want you struggling to be like, okay, which one do I very perfectly fit in? You may fall in one or more or all of them, right? And that is okay. Again, it doesn't make it harder to solve. Okay, I really want you to hold on to that. It doesn't make it harder to solve, but I do want you to think about all of these and which one resonates with you or which ones resonate with you. Okay, so the first category is the shame, blame, guilt cycle. You shame yourself, you blame yourself, you guilt yourself for not wanting to have sex, and then you force yourself to have it, and then you end up feeling resentful. You feel resentful of your partner. You're resentful for yourself for not saying no in the first place. And damn it, you did it again. Like, why do you always fucking do this? How hard is it just to say no? You don't even like having sex with him in the first place. So what the fuck, right? You're shaming yourself. You're blaming yourself. You're shitting on yourself for the way that you're showing up. And then there may be the same person or maybe, other times you're not enjoying the sex, leading to you not wanting sex. So that phrase is a little wonky here. So I'm going to repeat it again. When you do have sex, right? Because you're forcing yourself to have it. You're not enjoying the sex. You don't allow yourself to enjoy it. And then because you don't enjoy it, you don't want to have it. I want you to imagine you go to a restaurant and you order this plate that sounds really good and you have these really high expectations of it and you eat it and it tastes like shit. And you're like, I actually can't even just eat this even though I'm hungry. Like, it's that bad. You're not going to want to go back to that restaurant, right? The same thing is happening in your sex life. You're forcing yourself to have sex when you don't want to have sex. Then you're not enjoying it because you're like, why the fuck am I here in the first place? I don't even want to be here. Hurry up and get it over with because I got other shit that I could be doing instead. And then because that experience is so horrible, you don't want to have it in the future, right? Which just leads to the cycle that you're in of not wanting sex, forcing yourself to have it, not enjoying it. So you want it even less, right? And then all of a sudden your libido is like in the basement, right? It's nowhere to be found because of this cycle, okay? The second category is that on the off chance you do want to have sex, you're worried that if you do have it, you'll have to keep doing it. You're like, well, if I say yes this time, or if I initiate this time, then he's going to be like, oh, her libido's back. She wants to have it more. So I'm going to ask her again tomorrow and the day after that. And you can't possibly imagine a scenario where you have enough libido to have it as much as your partner wants to have it. So then you're like, okay, well, I'm not even going to tell him I have sex. Or that I want to have sex, right? I'm going to hide it. I'm just going to act like it's not even there. I'm going to shove it down. And so then you don't have sex, right? And then you have sex less and less, which then contributes to you having low libido. Because it is true, when you don't use it, you lose it. The less you have sex, the less that your body is going to be like, hey, we should have sex. The more you have sex, the more your body is going to be like, hey, we should have sex, right? So it is a cycle. So when you want to have sex and you're worried like, oh shit, this is like a once in a lifetime experience, but I'm afraid that if I say that I want to have sex, I'm going to keep having to have it. And I don't know if that is going to happen. And I don't want to go through this whole argument and things with my partner again. So I'm just going to act like I'm going to keep things on the down low. I'm going to act like this never happened so that we don't have relationship problems. And then you just continue having a low libido. Then there is this scenario, and this is the third category. On the off chance you do want to have sex, you are actually like, all right, let's do this. Like, yes, let's do it. I want to have sex. But because it rarely happens, you make it this huge deal, right? And I don't mean to like shit on your parade, but like you really like make it like this is my only chance, right? There's a lot hinging on this, right? You're like, I want to have sex. So like you make it this huge deal, which then leads to disappointment, even if it's good, because your expectations are through the fucking roof, because you're like, I don't know when this is going to happen again. It has to be perfect. It has to be all of these things because I don't know when and if this is ever going to happen again. So it needs to be really good. So even if it is good, you spend all of your time worrying about, is it good enough? Am I getting the most out of this? That you end up disappointed no matter what. And because we don't like disappointment, which fair, I don't either. Because you don't like disappointment, you end up not having it in the future, right? You're like, oh, well, the last time I had sex, I was disappointed. So the next time I'm going to have sex, I'm probably going to be disappointed too. So I'm not going to have it. And this may be happening consciously, but it may also be happening subconsciously. So you're not even knowing that this thought process is going through your head. But I can tell you after coaching hundreds and hundreds of women that this is the case. This is what is happening at least some of the time. Okay. So you do have it, you make it a big deal, then you're disappointed. And because you don't want to be disappointed, you don't have sex. And then because you don't have sex, the body responds and is like, okay, well, we just we're not going to have sex. So there's no point in me requesting that of you and giving you that desire because you don't respond to it anyway. So there's no point. So then you have a lower drive and you're like, oh, well, I have low libido. I don't know what the fuck happened. Okay. In all of these categories, you are leading yourself to have low libido. It didn't necessarily start with low libido, which is exactly why I'm telling you, you need to know why your libido is low in the first place. It didn't just happen out of nowhere, even though it might seem like that. There are reasons why your libido is where it is. And if you're struggling with libido, whether it's low libido, if it's like, you're like, well, it's medium, but I could have more, right? That's also struggling with libido. If you have no libido, I need you to know 3 things. Number 1, your libido isn't low. You're just not horny. You have mental desire and your body will respond if you're open to it doing so. I'm going to say that again. Your libido isn't low. You're just not horny. You have mental desire, and I know you have mental desire because you are here listening to this podcast. If you are interested in sex in any capacity, even if it's not to have it, you have mental desire, okay? And I know that sounds like a big jump from like, oh, I'm listening to a sex podcast and I'm learning all of these things about sex and desire and my body and this, that, and the other, to wanting to actually have sex. But I promise you, they are connected. So if you are listening to this podcast, you do have mental desire. So it's not that you don't have libido. It may not be where you want it to be, but you do have sexual desire. You have mental desire. And if you are willing, your body will respond, but you have to be open to doing so. And I understand that that is easier said than done, but this is exactly what I help my clients do. So, number 1, your libido isn't low. You're just not horny. You are having mental desire and you're not having physical desire. So you're like, well, I don't notice myself wet when my partner initiates, so I must not, have libido. No. If you're thinking about sex, you have libido. You're just saying you're not horny. You are not physically horny, and that is okay. Number 2, you can have sex even when you're not horny. So you can have a mental desire, going back to what I was just saying, you can have a mental desire, not have a physical desire, and still have sex. It is okay to do that. You don't have to be like gushing out of your vagina totally wet and throbbing and like all of these things in order to have sex. That is not necessary. This also does not mean that you have sex when you don't want to. You do not ever have to have sex when you don't want to, ever. You don't even have to have sex when you want to, right? Like you get to decide. You are the ultimate authority here. But what I need you to know is that you do not need mental desire and physical desire at the exact same time in order to have sex. And I'm going to tell you, this is number 3. I'm going to tell you exactly how to fix this on next week's episode. So I need you to subscribe so that you know when the solution episode for libido comes out, because, no pun intended, because I am going to take a deep dive into how to solve for this. I wanted to give it its own episode because I wanted to be able to go in depth without losing your attention because this is super important, okay? So the 3 things that I need you to know in summary: 1, your libido isn't low, you're just not horny. Number 2, you can have sex even when you're not horny, and this does not mean you have sex when you don't want to. And number 3, you need to subscribe to the Sex and Spanglish podcast because I'm going to tell you exactly how to fix this on next week's episode. At this point, you have a better understanding of your problem, which means you are ready to fix it. And I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited for you to change this. And I am so excited for you to listen to next week's episode. In the meantime, this is going to sound corny, but in between now and next week, I want you to repeat the following phrase. And I also want to say that I know I said that this might sound corny, and it probably will. It might even sound like AI, but I promise you, this is a game changer. The very first step in solving for your libido issue is to stop telling yourself that you have low libido, that it's something that you struggle with. And I don't mean pretend like it's not a thing, but stop repeating it to yourself, right? It's like when you're hungry or you're cold or you're mad and you just keep repeating it over and over and over again. It's like you're exacerbating what you're already experiencing. So stop talking about it. You already know that your libido is an issue for you. I get that. We're not dismissing that experience and we're going to solve for it. And again, I'm going to go into detail on that in next week's episode. But stop telling yourself that you have low libido. Stop it. It's not helpful. Okay? What I want you to say instead is this is the part where everything changes. This is the part where everything changes. This is actually a thought that I've been practicing, not about my libido, but in general. And what this thought leads me to do is that it allows me to be open to things not looking the way that I imagine, while also still keeping my desires in mind. So when I think this thought, I'm like, oh, it's okay that things aren't currently the way that I want them to be. Things can change today, tomorrow, right? Like things are always changing. And so I personally love this thought. Try it out. If it feels good in your body when you think that thought, then practice it. Even if you're only doing it just because I told you to, practice it. If it feels good in your body. If it does not, then send me a DM and we'll figure out a thought you can practice together. So you can send me a DM on socials. I'm at Sex and Spanglish. Remember, it's Spanglish, not Spanish. Or you can send me an email, anna@sexandspanglish.com, and we will figure out a thought you can practice together. Again, libido is actually one of the easiest problems to solve. And I know that sounds like a lie. It probably sounds fake, especially when you're struggling. So I do want to share some outside stories of women who have solved it. These are my clients. Actual clients, I'm going to share their exact words. These are words that came out of their mouth. And so the way that I'm going to share this is rather than saying like their name and age and like where they're from or whatever, because I like to keep things confidential for my clients, I'm going to share a little bit about them and some identities they have, like their relationship status, their job, things like that, because I want you to see who you resonate with the most, like who is living a life that is most similar to yours, so that you can see yourself in them. When you are in it, when you are like, fuck, this problem seems like it's never going to go away, identifying with stories of people that were where you were and who are on the other side of it, who have solved this problem, and there are several of them, is going to give you the hope that you need to move forward, to actually solve the problem. Because when you have been struggling with libido, or any problem with that matter, for an extended period of time, you end up wanting to give up, even though you really still want to solve the problem. So my purpose in sharing this is so that you can see yourself in these women. You can see yourself in these women that I've helped, that have already done, the hard thing of being willing to solve the problem. Because again, it's an easy problem to solve, but you need the willingness to actually go forward and solve it. So let's get started. Let's see, how many is this? I have 4 that I'm going to share. Okay, so first up, I have a teacher, a special needs mom, a mom of multiples, this person's married, and an entrepreneur, and a podcaster. Okay, this is all one person. She says, since we've started with this coaching, sexual activity with my husband has been more consistent and enjoyable on most occasions. We've had sex at least once per week, which is unusual, since before the coaching, we would probably have sex maybe every 2 months. True story. Next up, we have another teacher, a mom and a co-parent. She's in a same-sex relationship, getting married and planning a wedding, and has a significant history of trauma. So, sexual and otherwise. She says, celebrating that I poked and prodded and nudged and initiated sex last night. And my fiance told me she was so glad I did, even though she had originally intended to just go to sleep because she was exhausted. Next up, this person has an extensive trauma history, lives in a multiple family home, which means it's her immediate family in addition to a couple other families living in the same house. Undiagnosed ADHD, and a history of unsuccessful therapy. She says, me and my partner started partner showers again. We committed to at least once a week, and so far we have like 3 times in a week. And lastly, we have a person who is a first-time mom with a newborn. She's also a stepmom, a newlywed, and a stay-at-home mom. She says, I'm having so much more sex. I have sex pretty much daily. I've had more daytime quickies. I can say no and separate myself from the guilt. I even have sex before or sometimes during chores. I'm more present and connected. I used to always feel so rigid about when and how and tell myself I'm too busy. I've learned I have the power to say no despite what he may feel or think, and I'm learning to be okay with being around his uncomfortable feelings and mine. So, who do you identify with most? Send me a DM, send me an email, and tell me which story you resonated with the most, because that is going to help me as I create the outline for next week's episode. Because again, we're going to go over how to solve this, and you're going to be blown away. I promise you. Like, I know it sounds fake, but I promise you it's not that deep. We can solve this. So I will see you next week. Bye.